No.
Hands to myself,
So
except for my.
I figured the microphone here will pick us up, and they said they can hear us. Okay, so
Awesome.
she got hers at 18 years old in 1988, I think you said.
87, actually. I keep saying the wrong. Yeah, it was 87. My father passed away in 86. We moved from Flossmoor, Illinois, back to Dallas, Texas, and then it was on my 18th birthday, right about there. So, yeah.
I loved mine. Did you love them?
The first set, I believe I did. I mean, I felt comfortable enough in them. I was a small C. No one ever guessed.
You should scoot a hair over so you're in the picture better. Oh.
Hi. Sorry, Kim. I messed up your shelves. Kim Lasher, my darling friend, is letting us use her house. Love you.
Okay, so you had, run down your symptoms, because we just tried this and we had no audio, so sorry. Now I'm going to have to make her go down all her symptoms again. So what started and when? And
Okay, so 18 years old, I get silicone implants above the muscle. I wasn't given an option. I don't know if they even had an option back then, so they were just automatically above the muscle. But, you know, like a small C, I went from negative A to a small C, and nobody ever knew it, like when they would first meet me or anything. So I was very proportionate and everything else. But when I look back at symptoms now, which again, you know, a few months ago I would have said my symptoms started 18 months ago, but when I look back, no, I mean, they started when I was probably 19 or 20.
you just don't realize it.
You don't realize it. No.
Yeah.
I never in my dreams. I just thought it was the move. You know, I moved from Flossmoor, Illinois to Dallas, Texas. It's a whole different environment, different allergens, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that didn't play a part, but when I look back now, I'm like, I was a healthy kid.
Yeah.
You know, I went from being a healthy kid, teenager, to being someone who had chronic sinus infections, one after another. You know, this antibiotic would stop working, so it's bumping up and up and up. And my first sinus surgery within in my 20s. And then by 25, my insomnia started, and that was pretty rough. But I attributed that to becoming a mom. I say 25. Let's say more like 26. It was right around the time I became pregnant with my first pregnancy, which I miscarried, but then I had Austin, Zach, and Cameron.
So you had the kids after you had implants?
Yes.
Do they have any health issues?
Austin and both have been, sorry guys, speech delayed. They're perfect now. I mean, no issues now at all, but they did start off both with speech delays. But as far as nursing, I couldn't really. So I tried with Austin, and for like maybe 6 weeks, but I had no production. Like I couldn't get anything out. So I finally stopped even attempting. But yeah, they both had some speech delays, and I mean, and they're both, all three of my kids have been fairly sickly on and off. I can say that. But nothing else that, you know, Cameron has celiac disease. Zach most likely does. I do, but that's genetic thing. But mine wasn't set off until the end of 2016. I never had any idea.
So you never had any symptoms of celiac, no issues?
No.
And you don't, that's something you're born with?
I believe so, and then, you know, it can just be dormant. The way the doctor told me is he's like, it could just be dormant, and then one day you eat like a big old slice of pizza or something, and it just kind of triggers it.
Really?
But my immune system was so low as of 2 years ago. When I found out I had celiac disease, I started going to an immunologist, and my numbers were quite low. I was like at 452 when you're supposed to be like, I don't know the exact range, sorry, but I want to say closer to 800.
Wow.
And 1,500. So, but yeah, I never had any sign that I had celiac disease. I mean, I'm not a big pasta and bread person anyway, but I mean, gluten's in everything. I mean, I eat soy sauce like it's going out of style. I love my sushi, and, you know, I've always eaten soy sauce and things like that, and I didn't know, but once they found out that Cameron had it, they suggested we all get tested. So that's when I found out I had celiac disease. So, you know, my question is not, I don't think my breast implant illness created my celiac disease, but my immune system,
right,
everything, you know, I think it definitely helped activate it, if that's the right word to use. So, yeah. But so chronic sinus infections, insomnia,
Chronic fatigue,
muscle fatigue,
depression.
But I have situational depression. My father, when I was 17, committed suicide, and I would say that I had bouts that began then. And then, within like a month, we moved from everything I knew in Chicago or in Illinois to Texas. And definitely along the way, it's been kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. But never have I thought of myself as being a full-on depressed person until the past 18 months or so. To the point of thinking, why am I even here?
Yeah.
All I am is a drain to my family, financially, emotionally. Everyone was having to pick up my tasks, my chores, or do without, because I did the bare minimum. My mom, I'm also her caretaker. She's 91. My days consisted of getting up and doing only what I absolutely had to do. So if it was take her to a doctor's appointment, make sure she was, fed. She fixes her own breakfast, but aside from that, I would, tend to her. Pick my daughter up from school. It was all struggle. It took every bit of energy that I had. So yeah, I did end up on antidepressants and even Strattera for ADD because,
I went on ADD meds too. Concerta.
Okay. Yeah, my son tried that years ago. But I had never been known to be an ADD person in my past. Although when I look back at school, I might have always had a tendency because I did struggle in school.
No, I struggled.
Yeah, but had never been on medication for it, and I'd functioned.
Do you know, at the FDA hearings when I sat down, when I talked about the suicidal depression and blah, 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 at the thing, a researching lady came up. What was her name? Deb? I don't want to say her name wrong. Anyway, I want to say Fox. I don't think it was. Anyway, she asked if I was allergic to nickel. And said that she thinks that's why I was having blackouts with the implants in towards the end. It got really bad. Like the last 2 years it got really bad, but the last 6 months it was like I'd stand there and totally go blank, and then people would say, oh, you were talking about whatever, and I'd be like, no. Yeah, you were just talking about your cat.
And it doesn't even help. Yeah, you're like...
No, we were, my cat, nope, don't know what you're talking... And they're like, oh my God, how can you not remember? She thinks there might be a connection with why some of us they affect our brains so badly is we might be allergic to nickel and some of the other heavy metals in them.
Interesting.
We're like, so-and-so's not allergic, or you're allergic to peanuts and I'm not, or whatever.
Yeah.
That it might be nickel, and that might be causing a lot of the problems.
That got really bad for me. So I turned 50 in November, and that's when I had, we talked about this before, my head felt swollen. It felt like everything was just inflamed. I was thinking meningitis. I didn't know what to think. It just came on all of a sudden, and then kind of a vertigo type thing. And then that's when I went to the ENT finally and found out that I had the sudden onset hearing loss and began on oral prednisone, like 60 milligrams, like the highest dose you can be on for like 15 days, and then the steroid injections into my ear drum, my left one. And had all that going on. I was just at the tail end of it, right around my birthday, and had decided I was going to travel to Texas and spend time with friends. It was very hard to make that trip. We even tried to do a 10K because we had talked about it. I'm like, I can't do a 10K. Like, we can do maybe a walk slowly, a 5K. But while I was there, we were out to dinner one night at Mikosina, and we're sitting there, and I just went blank. And a friend looked at me, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, this is just what happens. Like, I couldn't explain it I went in the bathroom and started crying because I couldn't explain it to anybody.
Did you ever go through an intersection and think, was that light yellow?
Gosh.
Was that light green?
Yeah, absolutely. Or triple checking before you even
And I'd be sitting there like, oh, did I just go through a red light? I could, you can't even remember.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Yeah, that was
and
bad.
all the lists all over the house of the to-dos and everything else that just it just bumped from one day to the next. I wasn't marking things off. I was just adding more, you know.
Oh, and my husband, make a list, make a list. Well, then I forget that I have a list going, or I don't know where I put the list.
Yes, absolutely.
Bad.
Real bad.
Yeah. What other symptoms? Backaches, anything?
No, I didn't really have the backaches, and which I'm kind of surprised because with all the inflammation, I went from what was a very, very large C to what was pushing more like, I want to say almost a double D. And I'm like, I don't get this because I had gained weight. I mean, I was pushing almost 180 the end of last year, beginning of this year. But I thought, well, why am I gaining here now? Like, I've never gained here in my whole life. So why all of a sudden now? Well, it was all the inflammation.
Yeah.
Right? And but I have my neck and shoulder issues. Yes, I was seeing a chiropractor for that, so I guess that falls into it. Anytime I would get a massage, I'd be told, you know, how much, how many lumps and I would have in my back, and
it hurt to get massages.
And it hurt. Well, yeah. I mean, having to lay face down was no longer. It was very uncomfortable.
Everyone loved it, and I'm like, I don't know what everyone loves about massages. Man, they hurt. I wonder if they hurt now.
Yeah. Well, the last couple I had, they had to go easy on me. I had gotten the Aishatsu a couple of times and loved it, and I'd gotten to where they couldn't do that with me anymore because it hurt. Yeah. And I was so uncomfortable whenever I had to be face down like that too.
Yeah.
And I went for my first massage about 3 weeks ago since Explant, and not only did it feel just great laying on almost nothing, but I asked her, I said, do you feel a lot of knots? And she says, no. She goes, you're better than most of the people that come in here. I've never heard that in my life. And she didn't mention all the stiffness and, just relax. Like, yeah. I don't, and I got a hell of a lot more out of it too. So.
Yeah. So you lost weight when you explanted?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like the next day, but so March 18th of this year is when I explanted, and by like 2 weeks out, I have pictures on my blog and elsewhere where you can just see where it came off my face. I mean, that was the initial thing that I started noticing before I really noticed it on the scale. And then it was just, I mean, I was 160 something, I believe, before I explanted. I had lost like 9 pounds on Weight Watchers, but I mean, that was basically eating nothing.
Oh, I know.
And walking despite the incredible pain I was in. And it took 16 weeks to get off like 9 pounds. Well, then I explanted. And
it just came off?
Yeah, now I currently weigh like 144, and I have not done that much. I mean, past few weeks I did start doing kind of like a cleanse detox, but I would say most of that was prior to even beginning that. It was just getting that stuff out.
Yeah.
So, and then my cystic acne, that was between 5 and 7 years, it was complete cystic acne on my chin. And to the point where I didn't even like going in public. I mean, yeah, you can cover it up so much with makeup, but it hurt. Like they hurt to touch. They itched. It was 3 different dermatologists, and of course, different medicines they want to put you on, and then have blood work every month, and things like that, and different topicals. And I have a good friend who's an esthetician, and she studied as best she could, researched it, and found kind of a good mix that would help kind of tone down the symptoms for a few days, but then they would just ramp right back up. So that really bothered me. And
you're not the only one who got acne.
Oh, yeah, it was, because I had never really had it.
No,
when I was 16,
I never did either. But there's some women that got it all over.
I can't imagine. I can't. My heart goes out to them because at least it was confined, to one spot. But it was still right out there for the world to see. I felt, and between it and the inflammation, I didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore.
I think the inflammation is probably one of the biggest symptoms. I think it causes a lot of problems, like my foot pain, elbow pain, headaches. I think everything can be linked, almost everything, to the inflammation that the implants cause.
Oh, well, even I found out the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, that I have aortic stenosis. They first labeled it aortic valve stenosis, and then he just called it aortic stenosis. I don't really know the difference, but I mean, I'd had a murmur that had been mentioned over the years, but it had gotten to a point where my PCP said, you know, you really ought to just go get this checked out. So aortic stenosis, and it's something that I'm now being monitored for. It was yearly at first, now it's every 6 months. I go in for an EKG and echocardiogram. But one thing, he said I had the heart of, at least that issue, is more of like an 80-year-old. And here I am, you know, at the time, not even 50, that I find this out. But inflammation, of course, can only help exacerbate that much faster.
So have you had any heart problems since you pulled them out?
No, and
Mine all went away.
Yeah, I was having palpitations. I ended up in the ER a couple of times for palpitations, and my blood pressure was rising, so they put me on propranolol, which I am still on because I've got to keep my blood pressure lower. But I'm curious if I'll have to stay on it or not for that. But I also was on it for tremors because I had started getting the tremors, which I thought were alcohol related, which it ends up they were not at all. It's just I couldn't handle stress, and I would just start tremoring. I was trying to work as a legal assistant again for 3 years, 2012 or 2011 to 2014. I couldn't multitask anymore at all. The job completely overwhelmed me. And on top of it, typing. I would like double and triple tap. So it was, I mean, I almost want to cry thinking about it because it was hard. And, you know, I needed to work. I need to work. But I got to where I couldn't. And I was out sick all the time. You know, with my immune system as low as it was, 452 or whatever, I caught anything and everything that was going around. And I would be sick for not 2 days, 3 days. I'd be sick for weeks.
See, I didn't get sick.
Yeah.
It's like either you are getting sick all the time, like your immune system is so bad, or I don't know if mine was in overdrive so bad, I never got sick. Never. My mother never gets sick, though, either. The one who doesn't look like she's 80.
Okay. That got better for me later last year, only because I started working with a nutritionist who at least started helping me with some supplements and such that built it back up to where it was just above like the bare minimum, but it was still extremely low.
Did you have the vitamin D deficiency and the vitamin B?
No, everything kind of looked normal, but it wasn't. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but there were some things that she saw in blood work that the doctors hadn't mentioned. But if you were to look at it with your doctor, they would never say this could be higher. But from a nutritionist standpoint, she's like, no, you know, we need to work on these. And I can't remember exactly which ones, but, you know, it's like taking turmeric and being on a probiotic, you know, daily.
Yeah, me too.
But when I was seeing an immunologist 2 years ago, when he found out, you know, I was like 452, he said you can do this one of 3 ways. You can continue to get sick as you do, handle the sicknesses as they come, take a low-dose antibiotic, potentially the rest of your life, or you can try IV infusions. IVG, I think is what it's called. And I did that for about 3 or 4 months. And I had to be trained. So weekly, I was putting this someone else's immunoglobulin, somebody else can say that, and into my body. So I would do these infusions myself. I had never read the side effects or potential side effects of it. And again, I can't confirm this is what did it, but I had done my infusion one Saturday night, and then that Sunday, my blood pressure was like 180. I had a headache that felt like my head was literally going to explode, and ended up at the ER. And just because of the timing, I thought, A, I don't want to have to do this every week for the rest of my life or however long. And B, if there are potential, because I did read the side effects then, like brain inflammation.
Afterwards? Brain inflammation, oh my God, good.
So I quit that right away. And
well, we always read them after.
Yeah.
I always read what I posted after I posted it too.
Oh yeah.
Read the side effects after.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I know that's when I catch my typos is after. Thank God you can go back and edit on Facebook. I'm like,
and I always am. I'm in there editing. Oh, got to go back and edit again. Why don't you just
Well, it's like
proofread.
When I messaged you and I said I'm at my fiend's house. But that I couldn't fix. I just had to acknowledge it. But
All right, so what else can we tell them? And then you explanted in March.
March 18th.
And then when did symptoms start going away? Immediately?
I'll say this. So I did it out of town. I live in Arizona, but I had the explant in Dallas. The first few consults that I had were not successful, I would say, because my original plastic surgeon, when I went back, he wouldn't commit necessarily to en-bloc.
Well, they don't,
and I know,
they don't
and
know
and
how.
I can't say commit because there are
They don't know how to do it.
thin capsules and all that, but he is not a believer of BII necessarily. He barely acknowledged the connection between cancer, and the gummy bear, the textured implants. So with him, I just wrote him off right away because I needed someone that at least acknowledged that people do get better, something.
Yeah.
And so that did not go well. And then I got a quote from another very recognized surgeon in town, but it came in for explant and lift. It came in at just under $19,000. So that was my second taste of getting it done locally. So I did not go much further locally. I made some phone calls to a doctor in Tucson that was highly recommended for one. Her office seemed great, but she was scheduling so many months out. I'm kind of impatient. My kidney function had started declining. I had gone from 105 on my blood work in October to 88 in February.
Wow.
And, kind of getting closer to that kidney disease stage. And it terrified me. And I thought, I need these out by someone who's recommended, qualified and en-bloc, but someone who can get them out like tomorrow. Has that cancellation, that opening, and I'm talking to one of my best friends back in Texas, talking to her about looking at the list. And at the same time, I said, wait a minute, why don't I just fly to Dallas, stay with you, invited myself. Thank you, Donna. And traveled back there and had it done. Found a surgeon. It was right around $8,000 for explant.
And lift?
And lift, yeah. And he was amazing and stayed with her. So going back to noticing the difference. So I had my surgery on the morning of March 18th, Monday. I was due to fly back that coming Sunday, but by Friday, and I was above the muscle, I know that the recovery is different. No muscle was affected or anything. So by Wednesday night, I wasn't taking the pain medicine anymore or anything. And by Thursday, I thought, okay, I kind of want to get back home. And I changed my flight to Friday. So on Friday, I'm walking through the airport, and it just hit me that here I am wearing flip-flops, walking through airports, and I'm not thinking about my feet. Because the thing that bothered me the most, at least lower half of my body, was my feet and my ankles. They were constantly stiff.
It felt like my bones were broken. Every time
yeah.
I walked, it felt like there were broken bones. It hurt so bad.
Yeah. And, I had to stop hiking months before that because I would drag my feet hiking and I would fall. And it wasn't safe anymore. So that was horrible. Just that constant pain, getting up off the couch to walk across the room. So I'm walking through the airport, and it just hit me that, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking about that anymore. So that was the first big thing, and that was a huge thing for me. And then it wasn't any time before, the energy started coming back.
Yeah.
I joke that I feel like I'm 25 again, but
I know, I feel like I'm 30.
Yeah, it's like I kind of do because 25 is when the insomnia started, and I really, over the years, progressed with the fatigue, the brain fog. I honestly thought by the end of last year that I was going to end up on disability.
So did I.
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah,
I kept saying, you're going to put me in a home soon.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I couldn't even get out of bed. And then when I did, it was like you were hunched over and it took forever to even get you upright.
Right.
Now it's like, ching.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's
Except
night
I
and
gained
day.
all my weight back.
Oh, dang it.
Because I lost all of the weight and got down to 126 pounds right after surgery. And then it took, I think it's 8 months to get to Thanksgiving. And it was Thanksgiving, I said, I'm going to eat everything because it was at our house.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, you're going to get sick, you're going to get sick. Well, I didn't. I didn't get sick. It took me 8 months to not react to food and alcohol.
Oh, okay.
I was reacting to alcohol too, and would feel nauseated. So then I started eating everything in sight since Thanksgiving, and now I've gained it all back and then some.
Oh, boy.
But my face still doesn't look it used to.
I was going to say your face.
Like I used to look like, and I'll show you the picture. The day before surgery, my face looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I weigh more now.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the inflammation.
Yeah.
So now I've just gained solid fat. But I'll be able to get it off. I know I can get it off.
Well, that's
now.
the thing now.
Because before you're battling inflammation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, now we know what's left is just what we've got to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've still got my J-Lo and I got my thighs, but I'm okay with that, you know. And
oddly, I am too. So
yeah.
maybe I'm maturing finally.
I mean, you know, toning them up, okay, yeah. But, you know, now I've got the energy too. So
I know.
I will.
I know. I wish you lived closer.
I know.
We could go hiking. Well, maybe I'll move to Arizona.
There, now that's the answer. Yep.
I got to get my
Come
son
on
to move
back.
there, though. All right. Well, so anything else? I agree totally. I feel close
Disability.
to having to go. Oh,
Yeah, I
yep.
was actually starting to look into it, and yeah, that's really, I think, when the depression got the worst, was because it's like, okay, I'm going to end up on disability. I'm not even, well, at that point I was 50. I'm 50 years old. What does the rest of my life look like? And I felt useless to everybody around me, kind of. I mean, it's like, how do I take care of a 91-year-old mom when I'm going to triple the appointments that she is? And it was very depressing. And, you know, I will say, being a survivor of suicide, that, you know, they say it can kind of work one of two ways. You know, people can either follow in that path or they can be a huge advocate against it. Now, fortunately for me, I'm hugely the other direction. I mean, all I could think of is, yeah, but I could never do that to them.
Yeah, the devastation that leaves.
The aftermath, the aftershocks, the rest of your life. So I was protected that way. But also, I mean, there were nights I prayed. I'm just like, just take me now. If this is the way it's going to be.
I know.
And if this is the way it's going to be for my family, then...
Well, and then every day you wake up, you've got a different ailment.
Yes.
And then you quit telling people because you sound like a hypochondriac. So you just walk around sick and suffering and nobody knows it because you look like and sound like a hypochondriac. So people didn't even know that I was sick.
A lot of my friends would say after the fact, now they're like, I had no idea you were that sick. I'm like, because I quit communicating to people. Like Facebook. I didn't like going on there because everybody seemed so happy. And I love seeing people happy, but for me it was like, I can share that my kids are doing great, but for myself personally, I've got nothing to share other than just woes, you know, and my pains and my aches, and another failed doctor's appointment because they couldn't give me a real diagnosis that made any sense. Yeah. And, you know, a friend of mine in Colorado had mentioned to me the BII thing last year.
Oh, yeah. How did you learn about it?
I had heard about it once, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Really?
But,
I didn't.
It was filed way back there. I don't even know who, what, where, when. But then a friend of mine from Texas who lives in Colorado now mentioned it, right around my birthday last year, right when I had all the head stuff going on. And she's like, have you ever thought about that? And she had explant and was talking about how much better she felt and everything. And I mean, I filed it away because I was still in the midst of dealing with the ENT and getting over the head thing and everything else going on. And I was working on getting the surgery. So I promised myself, okay, I'll investigate that, but I can't right now because my brain's too foggy and everything else. And had the surgery in February, and, you know, godsends, I want to call them, just started happening where I felt so alone, and then I start meeting people or through, like, just bizarre ways that had explant. And when I mentioned, you know, I've just had this surgery, but I'm considering having explant, and they're like, oh my gosh, like this one friend of mine, Jill, now. I had shelves posted on Nextdoor like 8 months ago, and going on now, I guess about 10 months ago. And I get this message from Nextdoor saying, I'd like to buy your shelves. So I'm like, oh, okay. Made sure they were still out in the garage. And so she came to buy the shelves. And we start talking, and she asked me about my arm because I had it in a splint at the time, and I told her why I'd had that surgery, and I said I'm getting ready to have this done as well. 'Cause I'm an open book. I tell anybody anything pretty much. And she just stood back and she's like, oh my God. Hands me a card for Nicole's Facebook group.
Oh, that's what saved my life.
Yeah. And, hands me the business card. We start talking. And this is after I'd had one other connection with a gal. And it was just, that was when it all started coming together. I started spending time on the website, the Facebook groups. And I first of all felt so embraced and so part of something, where I felt so alone before, because even your family, they don't completely get it. And then, I know that half my household thought I was a bit of a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
And even my son Zach admitted that when it came time for explant, he knew how sick I'd been. He saw it firsthand daily, or whenever he'd come up to the house. He said, but I just questioned, could it really be your implants? And he full on acknowledges the difference. As a matter of fact, on my blog, hopefully this week, I'm going to have my family just post some statements from my direct family and my very close friends in Arizona who have seen me right up before and now what I'm like after. Because, it's I think, good to show it not just from my perspective, but what others have seen as well. So they're supposed to be working on that right now.
So did all your symptoms go away? Or you still have some? Like your head ringing is still there, right?
I still have tinnitus, but
that took mine 4 months. That took me 4 months to get rid of that.
Yeah, and I have days, I will say this, that it'll just leave for a moment. It does come back, but it would never do that before. So I feel hopeful, and if it does stay, whatever.
And I do think, like, some of us bounce right back. Like, I bounced right back.
Yeah.
Some people don't. But I also forget that I went down to Costa Rica, and it's a lot easier down in Costa Rica, but he puts you in your option. You don't have to do it, but it was $125 each time into hyperbaric chambers. So you're in this little capsule, tomb capsule thing, enclosed, and it was for like an hour and a half from start to finish. But you're getting pumped with pure oxygen.
Okay.
I really think that's why I had so much energy. I think it's why I bounced back so fast. He also gave IV treatments of vitamin C. And I think that's why I felt so good right out of the gate.
Okay.
But, it's not that easy here in the States to go into hyperbaric. You have to have a doctor's, you have to have a reason why.
Oh, sure.
And they won't put you in them. But I do think those hyperbaric chambers might be why I bounced back so fast.
Yeah,
but I wasn't as sick as some of these women. Oh my God!
No,
I thought I was dying, and then you see these other women.
Continually goes out to people that I've heard the suffering, and I can't imagine in my own journey with it being any worse than I was. But then I hear what they've been. I'm like I don't know how.
I want to talk to Andrea. She was on here earlier. Andrea, I was trying to talk to yesterday. And then things didn't work out for her. Poor thing. She got taken through the ringer with her doctors. But wait till you hear Andrea.
Okay.
But but yeah, she has cancer, and then got the implants. So now she's dealing with cancer and implants. So, where are you going? Oh, all right. So that was it. And so, what symptoms remain?
Well, really,
just your head ringing.
The tinnitus. Obviously the hearing loss, I don't expect that's going to return. I don't know if that's a thing or not. My celiac disease, which, like I said, I believe was set off from everything going on, but it's something that's probably, here to stay. Aside from that...
You feel great.
Yeah, my headaches were one of the last things to go. I was still having... They were nothing like I'd had migraine-wise, but I was still continuing some headaches. I can't tell you... in the weeks, like the last time I actually took a dose of Excedrin.
Yeah.
And medication-wise, I went from being on, Restasis, I had dry eye.
Oh, yes.
That started a couple of years ago. Constant dry eye. And so they put plugs in the lower drain of my eyes, which are still there. Probably silicone.
Oh, God.
I don't know what they're made out of.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because my mom has them.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
What they're made of.
And I was doing Restasis twice a day.
They almost put me on that, and then they said, as soon as you go on, you can't ever stop. I had the worst dry eye.
They told you that?
Yeah, but now I don't have dry eyes anymore.
Okay, well, I stopped it slowly, but I did stop the Restasis. Oops. Well, because they have to watch the pressure and everything else in your eye, your eyes while you're on it, and I purposely stopped it because I was like, well, let's see how they feel now. And I mean, it is Arizona; it's dry, so I use lubricant, but it's not. I don't have to.
Yeah.
And it's not a constant thing. But no, I would say 95% of my symptoms are gone. I mean, the joint and muscle pain. My knees bother me, but I have osteoarthritis. I mean, it's just an issue. I've had 3 knee surgeries over the years, and that issue started prior to implant. And and I mean,
it just exacerbates. Is that it?
Exacerbates
everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I see that healingbreastimplantillness.com. That's what saves your life.
Yeah.
And then if Nicole, I always say her name wrong, Daruda, had not started that Facebook page, I don't know what kind of shape I'd be in, or if I'd even be here right now.
Nicole,
if it wasn't for Nicole.
Rock. And thank you. And between her website, her Facebook group, it's just been...
It's a lot of work.
Oh,
and a lot of years of research, and so it's all there for you. And then if you join her page, and there's other breast implant illness pages, and then I started a Michigan support. You should start a Arizona support.
Well, no, we actually have one. Arizona, AZ breast implant illness.
Is it you or somebody else?
No, it's not me. It's
too bad.
A couple of great gals though.
But there's all kinds of pages. But if it wasn't for those, I wouldn't know. I don't know where I'd be, honest to God. And she's got all that research and...
Oh, I mean, she just...
But, and these women, if you just go if you join her page, there's a search bar on the side, and you can search, and you can type in, like, Kim's name, or anyone's name, my name. You can type in your symptoms, you can type in doctors, there's files, there's all kinds of stuff. And it's also on that website, too, so if you don't want to join and be part of the group... You can also just look at the .com.
That's true. But, I mean, all I can say to anybody who has implants and is uncertain if their symptoms are related, just research it. I mean, just spend the time that I did, any of us have, just looking into it. I mean, I left a rheumatologist appointment crying because she had done all her testing for arthritis, the rheumatoid arthritis. Everything came back normal. She sat down with me, not a good bedside manner at all, and started, I can't find anything wrong with you. I can't find anything.
They truly can't find anything
Lisa.
wrong.
Oh, I read that wrong.
Lisa.
But, she's sitting across the room from me where the clinics are and everything, and she starts saying, well, you might want to look at, seeing a neurologist. It could be fibromyalgia. It has to do with more in your head. And I just started bawling because I was at this appointment to hear that there was something definitive. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted something that I could start.
Have they told you it was in your head?
That's the closest
doctor tell me it was all in my head.
That was the closest that someone got to it. But I'm sitting there, I just start bawling, and she's sitting across the room from me. The Kleenex are right next to her. Offers me no Kleenex, no anything, and I just said, oh, well, okay, I guess I know what I don't have now, and, I'll keep going. So then it was on to the neurologist for nerve testing and everything. And, even she's like, fibromyalgia? But even that, she couldn't. She was maybe...
So have you gone back and told them?
I did. I went back to the neurologist, and I got clearance, I guess you'd say, because I was on amitriptyline, which she was upping my doses because it wasn't helping significantly with the joint and muscle pain. I went back to her and gave her the report of how I'm doing. My PCP wrote me a letter that I filed with my insurance claim because I did file with Aetna after the fact. I didn't prior to my explant because MRIs, nothing really showed that anything was technically wrong. But I did have capsular contracture, and I understand Aetna will cover that. I'm Aetna through Banner. And anybody can text me or messaged me for information on a BII project that's going on to get assistance with going through the whole insurance process. But I did file after the fact with the pre-op or with the operative report, also with a letter from my PCP just stating these are the symptoms that I've seen Kim for over the years. This is where she is now. Mm-hmm. And she had capsular contracture. You know, I believe it was warranted. And just wrote me an amazing letter. So hopefully, you know, I get something back. I may not. Do I have any regrets? People sometimes ask me of getting the explant. No.
I have none.
I am pretty flat, but I call myself customizable. If I put on a top I think I could look a little bit better in, there's padding. There's padded bras. You know, my boobs used to be what decided my day, kind of, you know, what I could wear, what I couldn't wear. Now I feel like I'm back in control over my body and me, and it's just really an amazing feeling. And you know,
I actually feel more feminine now.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I mean, then you go back to like why you got them in the first place.
I know.
But I don't beat
That's
myself
a whole
up.
Other chapter.
I don't beat myself up for that at all either. I mean, you know, we knew what we knew back then, and it wasn't very much. You know, we knew how we looked and how we wanted to look, and we had what limited information they gave us, if any. I mean, I know these people get the ID cards after their implants. I've never had an ID card.
I did.
Yeah, neither set. I don't know. I mean, and I still have to get my implants back because I've been advised I should. That's a whole other story. The surgery center decided that they're biohazard, by the way, and I couldn't have them back. And my surgeon was beside himself because they used to release them. And that became a little bit of a fight. I mean, I immediately contacted the Texas State Board of Health or Health Department with a letter, and then a letter to the surgery center, to the administrator. My doctor was very active as well in my PS. But now I do get them back. The legal department has changed their mind, but I have to get them in person when I go back to Texas and sign a waiver or release. But it is kind of funny when you think about them being called biohazard when, I know that's because they came out of your body, but it's still, oh, they're biohazard. You'll acknowledge they're biohazard at this point, but like in my body,
yeah,
you know. But as I was saying, anybody who has symptoms that are unexplained, like mine went, so many of them, and then you're on one medicine after another. You know, it's something to look into. Yeah.
I was on so many supplements, and bioidentical hormones and thyroid medicine.
Oh, thyroid. I've heard that from a lot of people.
And I haven't been on, I take nothing now. Nothing.
Yeah. Are there any questions y'all have you want to
I
put out?
don't see anybody. Andrea's there. Andrea's the one I'm going to be talking to tomorrow.
And I don't think we made it on my page. We can put it there, though,
I can
right?
put it there. Yeah. All right. So if anybody has questions, I'm going to put this on her page too. So we can both answer questions. But there you go. So I'm in Grand Rapids, visiting with Scottsdale, Arizona, and Kim.
Yes, and I will have my blog on there as well, in case anybody wants to visit that for my complete story, which I just updated today with my 2-month. Yeah.
Yes, update. And if you want your video on here too, make sure you let me know, because honest to God, this is the only way to let them know.
Yeah.
Oh, there's only a few of you getting sick. That's not true.
No.
There's only a few that aren't. And honestly, I think they are sick and they just don't know it. Like my friends who have them and they're not sick yet, I just think they just don't realize that they're sick. They don't realize they're killing their immune system slowly. Sorry, but I think you are.
Oh, walking time bomb.
I do. I think so. But, you know, not everyone's allergic to peanuts, so whatever.
That's true. Yeah, just research it and take care of yourselves.
All right. Adios, everyone.
Bye.